Let's talk about mic choices, microphone choices, placement, getting sounds, for example. How do you deal with drums?
Okay, I have a special setup I use for drums, and I use it whether it's a jazz date or rock and roll date or a big band date or just a trio date, you know, the guys playing brushes. But I use a D12, the fourth one made, and I love that mic on the kick. And if you can't find one of those, a D112 is a great mic on the kick, and a FET 47 works on the kick. And if the guy has a hole in the kick, I'll put the microphone up by the hole. And if not, I'll keep it centered and just back off maybe 4 or 5 inches from the kick. On the snare, I use 2 mics. I use a 57 up under the snare, and I try to aim it to the snare, actual snare, as much as possible. I put that microphone out of phase. Then on top of the snare, I use a 452, and I aim that to the dark spot on the snare, aim it the way the drummer plays mostly, and try to keep it this much off the rim and face aiming towards that spot. I use 414s on the toms with the 10 dB pad in, and I keep them about this far off each tom. You can use all kinds of mics on the toms. People use Sankins, and people use 452s or 57s. So if there's 4 of them, there's 4 toms, there's 4 mics. I put a mic on each tom. On the hi-hat, I use a 452, and I keep it about 6 inches, 8 inches away from the hi-hat, and I aim it towards the corner. So away from where the air is coming out when he's closing it, but enough to get the sound. On the overheads, Audio-Technica makes a great microphone. It's a 5045 is the model number. Crystal clear at the top end. All the drummers love it. So I use that, but you could use 452s. They work well. I've used a Royer stereo microphone overhead. That sounds great. On the overhead of the drums, I try to put them up over the drummer's head, and they're maybe 5 feet up from the drums, and I kind of aim them down toward the cymbals. And then when I'm balancing in the room, I'll open those first to see what's all coming in, whether I have to lower them or raise them. Then I go from there to opening up the kick, and I'll have usually the drummer, if he's around. Sometimes they don't show up until the last minute, but if not, they have a drum tech, and I'll have him sit and play, and I'll get my sounds so that when the actual drummer comes to play, we're in a good position, and we just fine-tune things and get what we need.